Hey guys, Aaron Sandstone here and welcome to another episode of Aaron Live. I believe we're up to number 7, is that right, Connor?
Correct.
Number 7, from a small idea to now 7 shows, 7 months, and we'd love to get together and do this live every single month. And this time we've added an addition of a studio audience and they're already having fun and they're already laughing and we haven't even started. So, welcome to Aaron Live. Welcome back. Here we are, Aaron Live. Let's get into it, episode 7. So if you're new to this thing, we get to hang out with you 45 minutes an hour every single month, and I get to cover up a bunch of things for you. We've got segments on business news. We've got segments on training and mentoring I'm going to give to you guys as well. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, things I'm loving, things I'm wondering what's going on, and a whole bunch of stuff in the business world. And the reason why we do this is because I help you to be able to live by design and not live by default. So that means making great choices for you personally and also professionally as well. And we have a little bit of fun along the way, don't we, studio audience? Yes. So guys, episode now, I'm excited about this one and we're gonna get into a bunch of stuff. So let's kick off, Connor, with the biz news.
That's right. Look at that.
Look at that. Okay, good. Let's get into the biz news. So somebody who's very familiar with the biz news is a company called Afterpay. Now, you may have heard of them. If you haven't, you will, because they have grown by about 200% in the last 12 months. These guys are doing huge things. Nick Molnar, who's the chairman, these guys have 200% growth the last 2 years, and they've just posted a $100 million paper profits. That means there's just unrealized capital gain growth for the company in the last, I think it was in the last 2 weeks is what they did from the investment they've had. They've had investment now from everybody that's trying to give money to this company. So if you don't know what they do, they are a company design where if you've got a product, you're able to buy it and then pay for it after another time. Isn't that a good concept? Go buy whatever you want and then pay for it another time. Isn't that what got us into the 2008 meltdown? I don't know. But these guys are doing some great things and you got to watch what they're doing. But listen, how they've surged and grown right now has been a real show to the growth of the market of Afterpay, which is now up to about $3 billion market of companies that get into the fintech space around buying something now and then being be able to pay it off later. I remember the days where my mum used to buy something from Target and have to go back. Layaway is what they call it in America, isn't it? Layaway, but they call it lay-by. Do you remember lay-bys?
Yeah.
And you'd go back and have to put like $5 on it the whole time. Lay-by. I had a lay-by at Anaconda once. Do you remember Anaconda? Are they still around? Yeah. You know Anaconda? They're around, aren't they? Yeah. Anaconda, right? It's they do, when I was buying a backpack, when I was backpacking around, I had to lay-by it. I had to go back, every single time I buy it. Some people that weren't as poor as me growing up didn't have lay-bys, but we had to have lay-bys. So these guys are the cool version of lay-bys now, aren't they? Right? The Afterpay. So huge news for these guys. I will be speaking about them in the future because they have done huge things. I think they're actually the biggest stock that we've seen grow this year so far. So huge things have been happening for these guys, and keep an eye on them. Afterpay. Next, Culture Amp. So these guys are they're not too new to the scene, but they're doing really well. So these guys have created a staff survey tool and analytics, and they got about 54 million, I think was the last capital raise, AUD, 54 million. Blackbird have gone into these as well, which are behind a huge amount of great ventures right now, including Scott and Mike. They've got behind this as well. And these guys are the Atlassian brothers that are worth a few $1 billion, Australian guys. And the staff survey tool, I think one of the reasons why we've seen these guys grow so much, the Culture Amp, is because you're seeing a huge change in generational needs and wants within a workforce, and you're also seeing cultural changes as well. So these guys now, I think they've got 1,500 different companies, including what I read before, I think was Disney are involved, Nike, McDonald's, Airbnb, Airbnb, major company using this platform to survey the staff and to understand what's happening with the staff, and then be able to build some analytics from it to be able to make decisions around HR. So huge changes for these guys, and I really think that they've been caught in this bubble of what's been growing really, really well for them within the industry. So big news, watch these guys, Culture Amp, not Culture AMP, Culture Amp. And what I love about these guys, one of my favorite things is they are from Melbourne. Round of applause for everyone from Melbourne. 4 staff to 230 staff across four offices now. Awesome job. Right, next up, we have On The Biz News. We have Explore. So those of you that have children may have heard of this Explore. So Mark Woodland, who's a young rich lister, they just did a $4.5 million raise. They've got an app technology where it enables you to be able to check in your children using iBeacon technology. Parents can automatically sign their children into childcare centres and track them as well through their after-curricular activity as well. So I don't know if it's a smartphone, but I don't know if that's starting to move towards the chipping idea as well. I like that. I have children. I think we chip everybody so we know where they are. I've already asked my team if I can chip them too. So it's going to be the new Explore Team app. What do you think? Yeah? Yeah? There's no clapping for that. I don't know what's going on. Don't chip me. Don't follow me, right? So these guys have done some awesome things. So they have grown by 550% in the last 12 months. So Explore app and technology. So Mark's doing a great thing with these guys and just enabling people to be able to track a lot more, but also just be able to use technology to be able to check their children as well, which is great. So I love that. Explore, they make my biz news list. Keep an eye on these guys. 550% growth with any company in a year is massive as well. That is the biz news. Next up, we're going to talk about crushing it. I love this one, right? Let's do it. Crush it. So you can give a round of applause. They're like, when do we clap? I'm like, I can just clap all the time. It's fine. We'll just do a show of clapping. So listen, I've spoken about these guys before. I have been watching them because they have been one of the most under-wraps companies in Silicon Valley, Zoox. And they're really secretive, and they're a startup around the driverless car space, and they're trying to go up against Alphabet, which is Google's rival as well, GM's Cruise, and a bunch of them. These guys you can't almost find any information about, but it hasn't stopped them from just raising $673 million, and now in only 4 years after being founded by Australian designer Tim. They are now worth $2.7 billion US. So what are they all about? They're going to be launching, they've said they're going to be doing a full commercial launch of a robo-taxi service in 2020. And again, Blackbird Ventures, which are behind pretty much every major deal at the moment, Blackbird Ventures, these guys have said, they've said that these guys, for city driving, they're the best that they can see. So that's a big call coming from the venture capitalists that we're seeing as well. So keep an eye on these guys as much as you can, the Zoox and what they're going to be doing. But these guys absolutely get my crushing it award. 4 years in the gig, 2.7 billion valuation, and they haven't launched a product yet. Isn't that interesting? There you go. So they get our crushing award, Zoox. Love it. All right.
2 seconds, just making sure the stream's still going.
You guys can still hear me properly? We dropped out. Can you hear me?
We may have dropped out. Let's find out.
Let's find out. Coffee break?
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely need elevator music as well, right?
Someone play some on their phone.
We're still live on Instagram, right? Hi, Insta.
Instagram
We haven't forgotten about you.
We may have to restart the stream on Facebook. I think Facebook is...
Go for it.
I think we got zucked. We got zucked hard. And that. And re-get into it. Instagram, you still with us? Thanks
We're back. We're back at Aaron Live. We're back.
We are almost back.
We are back.
Almost. We're back. Aaron,
elevator
there we go.
We're back, and what you can hear are the smooth soul sounds of elevator music that was just played for you while we're waiting. Welcome back to Aaron Live, everybody! Love it. Okay, so we're back. And now it's time for us to talk about our next segment, which is one of my favorite things. I get to train you guys and teach you guys on something. And this is what we call the Mentor Minute. The Mentor Minute. But before we get into it, let me show you a quick little video about what we're about to get up to next month right around Australia. Check this one out.
Today's about getting the things that you're missing in your business and in your life to change what you want.
Every time there's another takeaway, there's another pickup, and a hell of a lot of momentum.
I'm definitely glad I came. And
I'm feeling really pumped actually. I can't wait to get back to home and start, implementing some of the things I've learned today.
We are back. Welcome back to Aaron Live. Time for us to talk about the Mentor Minute. But what you just saw was part of what we're doing next month, which is hanging out all around Australia. So if you're watching from Australia right now, you need to come and hang out in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Perth for the Entrepreneurs Summit. We are already 100% sold out. In fact, I think it's about 120% sold out in Melbourne. So get your tickets. Last time we did this was a sellout this year. In all the cities, we're bringing Michelle Bridges, who's going to be coming to Brisbane and Sydney, and has just confirmed only yesterday that she's also going to come and hang out in Perth as well. So we've announced her for Perth. So Michelle Bridges is going to be in Sydney, in Brisbane, and in Perth. And if you can come and beg to get a spot into Melbourne in the already sold out event, get onto the waiting list as well. But go grab your tickets to come and hang out with us. So listen, when it comes to coming and hanging out right around Australia for the Entrepreneurs Summit, I started to think about this guy, Mark Randolph, who is the first person we brought out for the Entrepreneurs Summit, which must have been last year. Was Mark Randolph last year, Lou?
Was last year.
Last year, started last year. So Mark Randolph came out. Now, if you don't know who Mark Randolph is, you should, because this is the guy that was a co-founder in Netflix, right? This is the guy that was behind the startup of Netflix as well. So Mark Randolph, he was the first one we brought out for the Entrepreneurs Summit. We did one event in Melbourne, and it was an awesome event. When he showed up, and that was a whole nother story, he thought it was a different day, and through some fun phone calls, influence and persuasion, and getting our way through some hotel security, we found out where he was staying, and we let him know that he was wrong with the dates. And he finally got there, so it's been a bit of a fun memory for us. Stressful, my team told me, but it was still fun for us as well. So listen, Mark came down to the first Entrepreneurs Summit, which is what sparked us saying, let's go out there and do some more Entrepreneurs Summits. And one of the things I was thinking about the other day is, what did I learn from Mark? So let me take you through some of the things that I learned from Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix. He came on stage and he shared with everyone that was going to be there some of his principles that he learned through going through that startup phase and going through and building a company, of which now is one of the Goliaths of the world, and even doing bigger things. These guys are really, attacking the online streaming right now, not just watching your own videos, but if you look at it, I think the Emmy Awards are out recently. They were nominated for about 118 Emmy Awards, which is more than anybody else. So seeing what these guys have done recently, even by creating their own content as well as streaming, they're expanding to even more things. So just when you thought Netflix weren't going to slow down, here you go. So what I learned from Mark, well, when I looked at what Mark was sharing with us, what he was teaching us, what I found about it is that Mark broke down some of the success that they were going through into a really simple form. You know, when they first launched Netflix, they were one of the laughing stocks of everybody. They were saying, you know, everyone was thinking that, you know, these guys aren't going to last. These guys are, you know, even Blockbuster, and I'll share you some of the stories of Blockbuster. You know, when Blockbuster first heard about this and had the opportunity to become involved with these guys, you know, they didn't take them seriously. And so when he went through that journey, and he shared a lot of his story on the night as well about what he went through, it was awesome to hear from somebody who's built and gone through that startup phase, but then had to go through some of the growth phases as well. So let me take you through. Get my slides up for me there, Connor. Let me take you through some of the training that I learned from this guy as well. So number one, the big takeaway is this: take a risk. All right. Now it's easy to say take a risk, but I actually agree with Mark. When I look back at what Mark shared with everybody, and then things that I train with people around the world and here in Australia, especially at the Entrepreneur Summit as well, is you've got to take a risk. I mean, not everything you can work out ABC before you take a risk, before you decide to do something. Everything is taking a risk. And he said, listen, we didn't know if this was going to work out. We didn't know if we were going to get a return on our money. We didn't know if we left our jobs to go and, you know, start this thing, whether it was going to work. But we took a risk. And one of the things that he says through traveling around the world and doing keynotes himself is that he sees too many people that have a great idea, but they don't just take a risk. They don't just give it a go. You know, in Australia, we like to say give it a go. You know, and that's that take a risk. That's give it a go and put yourself out of your comfort zone. And one of the things that I really took away from him was taking that risk. So what do you take from that? Is there a risk that you should be taking? Is there things that you could be doing within your own personal life, with your own business that you could be doing? Is there something you've thought about, like expanding or hiring that first person or hiring that 10th person, or creating a new division, or launching a new product, or maybe making a major change and scrapping 10 of the products that you have and focusing on that one that's really working, like you would have seen famously done by Steve Jobs and Apple? Take a risk. You know, that's one of the big takeaways from him. The second thing is this: back yourself. Absolutely backing yourself. You know, Mark talked a lot about that, you know, especially when he came up against people that were the naysayers. If you think that your idea is only as good as the first investor that you meet, if you think your idea is only as good as a product or service that somebody else thinks where they can see value in, or a customer says maybe yes or no, then your value is only based upon that day. And that means that if you go into business and you get someone that doesn't like your product or your service, or get someone that says, no, I don't want to buy your product, or an investor that says, I don't want to give you any money, then you don't back yourself, then you start to feel like this isn't working. Whereas if you back yourself, you back your ideas, you back what you can do, then whether you have a bad day, whether you don't, it doesn't faze you. You still know where you're going. And he said we had plenty of bad days. We had plenty of bad days that we had along the way. Some of the greatest venture capitalists out there have said that they've missed ventures that they should have got into, right? Even, you know, when I shared the stage a couple of years ago with Gary Vaynerchuk, he said one of my biggest mistakes was I didn't invest, you know, in Uber early enough. Whereas he could have got in Uber earlier, but he didn't. You know, that was one of the greatest mistakes that he made. Now, has Uber worked? Yeah. But you've got to back yourself. You know what I mean? Uber backed themselves and said, we're going to keep raising money. Whether this person can see value, whether this person can't, we're going to keep growing. And it turns out to be one of the greatest things that they've done, because now it's one of the biggest companies in the world. If you know something's great, you've got a great product, you've got a great service, he said you've got to back yourself. And you've got to push yourself, even if you have those days where others can't see what that value may be. Next thing I saw really when I spoke to this guy is he said, if you don't back yourself when it comes to Blockbuster and seeing what these guys have done, he talked about this meeting. One of the things that he shared, I'll share with you guys, is he says, we were at I think it was a conference is what he said, and they were in a t-shirt and they were in shorts and they were in thongs or flip-flops, so, you know, we call them thongs in Australia, that doesn't work in America, flip-flops. And he said, we're at this conference and we've been trying to get Blockbuster to speak to us for a long time now, and it took them months and months and months. They're at this conference, they weren't suited up, they were, you know, they're having fun. He said they're having a couple of drinks. They finally got a phone call from Blockbuster to speak to them, right? He said they had, like, you know, something like half a day to be able to get on the plane, get back to there and try and pitch to Blockbuster. So by the time they got to the airport, they flew in, they got there, they couldn't even change. They walked into this boardroom to pitch Netflix to Blockbuster and back themselves in doing it. And the famous story is that Blockbuster laughed them all the way out of the boardroom. Now who's laughing, right? You know, they backed themselves, and he talked about this story, and it was amazing to see again. Imagine if you didn't back yourself and you went into the biggest giant of your industry and said, we see the future of the industry, and the executives literally laughed you out of the boardroom. That is backing yourself 100% when you say, you know what, we can make this work. And I think famously Mark said, you know what, if they can't see us, they can't see the value, we're just going to have to crush them, right? And look what happened on the back of these guys as well. So back yourself has been a big thing. Third takeaway, and I love this idea, he said, don't marry your idea. So one of the things he said when I launched Netflix, he said, we created the idea of what we thought we wanted to do in Netflix. And we created the prototype, we put it out there in the market, and we let the consumers beat it up to decide whether it's what they really wanted, what parts of it did they really want. And he said the reason for that is that a lot of companies launch, whether it be an app, whether it be a service, whether it be a product, and they create this thing, they create this huge Titanic of a thing, they create this amazing product or amazing service. But what they find is that consumers only want to use a small amount of what they've created. You know, I speak to many people that develop apps, and they create this huge, amazing app, and they get it into consumers' hands, and consumers end up using 15 to 20% of what they actually created. And of course, that's frustrating for somebody who spent, 80% of their money building something that's never been used. And he said, we learned early on to not create the end product first. We learned to create the small product, get it out there, see what they think, let them beat it up and decide what they want, and then build more iterations of their product. So when he said don't marry your idea, what he meant was that if you marry your idea and say this is how we have to do it, then you're not going to evolve. You're not going to try and find different ways that you can improve your product because you think that's the best way you can do it. I love that advice. I thought it was critical advice from him as well. And takeaway number 4 was about doing it now. He said, don't wait, do it now. Now, if you follow me long enough, you know I call that MAIA, massive and immediate action, right? He said, do it now. There's no time like the present to getting something done. He said, you got to do it now. You've got to back yourself. You can't write it down on a piece of paper and say, one day we're going to grow the business. One day I'm going to invest into myself, into my knowledge that I need, or do some marketing that I need to get done, or learn something. Now, he said, is the time to do it as well. So 4 key takeaways that I took from Mark, and I thought on the eve of coming into the next Entrepreneur Summit, why not share with you the very first speaker that we had at the Entrepreneur Summit and what I learned from him as well. So I hope you guys learned something from what Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix, liked. And by the way, if you've got any questions, at the end of today, we are going to be talking about this on Aaron's advice. So if you've got any questions right now, anything from the show so far, or anything you have at all within business or personally, write it in the comments. You can email into studio@aaronsadsoni.com. You can write in the comments on Instagram or the comments on Facebook, and use the hashtag Aaron's Advice. We're going to select a few to answer live as well, plus a few prizes we've got for people that are sharing this live. So if you share this live right now when we're streaming, there's going to be a few prizes as well. So there you go. That is the Mentor Minute. I hope you guys liked it. We'll be back really quickly after a quick video break. See you guys soon.
Today's about getting the things that you're missing in your business and in your life to change what you want.
Every time there's another takeaway, there's another pickup, and a hell of a lot of momentum.
I'm definitely glad I came. And
I'm feeling really pumped actually. I can't wait to get back to home and start, implementing some of the things I've learned today.
We are back. Welcome back to Aaron Live. All right, I hope you guys liked the Mentor Minute. Tons of questions coming on Instagram and also on Facebook and also on email as well, which we're going to get to at the end on Aaron's Advice. Now is the time for us to do one of my favorite segments, and we call this WTF, also known as What the Fuck? WTF. What is going on? So, in the biz news, you've got to think about biz people, right? And so if you think about business people, and we're not talking about Donald Trump here, right? Because he's now been a president now. He's not a business person right now. Then he's going to go back. I'm sure he's going to go back to be a business person after it, if he's not re-elected. But for once, I'm not going to speak about Donald Trump here. Or impeached. No, one of the two, right? But WTF, who gets the WTF this time around? Well, if you've been paying attention to anything on social media or the news, you know that Mr. Elon Musk has been in news recently. Now, I think the guy's amazing, right? You know, he's actually in my Think Like book. I think obviously he's done incredible things. But why does he get my WTF? Well, we know why he gets my WTF is because he had a bit of a spat with the divers that were doing obviously great things, trying to rescue these boys in Thailand, he decided. After having, you know, to be fair, he's getting goaded, you know, by this guy who was, you know, was saying some things. But being Elon Musk, you need to think about this. So then he goes and calls the Thai diver a pedo on Twitter, and then goes and deletes it. And then that obviously sparks this huge, massive news story. And then this guy didn't take too well to it, obviously. And then he apologized, but I love his apology. Did you hear his apology, Connor? Did you read his apology?
Yeah. What did he say again?
My words are spoken in anger after Mr. Unsworth said several untruths and suggested I engage in sexual acts with a mini submarine, which had been built for an act of kindness according to specifications. So I love that. But you know what? But the interesting thing about why does he get WTF? Because if you were investing in Tesla at the time, you know why? Because they lost $2 billion instantly in their stock value after he called a guy a pedo. And also, what did he also say about him? He said, what has he said? He said, never saw this British expat guy who lives in Thailand, sus, in brackets,
that's my favourite
at any point. He called him sus because he lives in Thailand too. You love that. So what got me thinking is what else has Elon Musk said that's a bit crazy over his time? So, or done, right?
Dude, just this year.
Just this year. So this year he told an analyst, right? There was an analyst having a chat with him. He said, we had no interest in satisfying any desires of day traders. Day traders are people that buy and sell stocks. I couldn't care less. Please sell our stock and don't buy it. That's what he told, and he obviously has a huge amount wrapped up in this as well. Not a great thing to tell people that are going to be deciding to buy or sell your stock. Next, another analyst asked him about whether they need to raise more money. And he said to the journalist, the analyst, he said, next, boring, bonehead question, not cool, next. I feel like Trump said the exact same thing once or twice. It's very Trump-esque, isn't it? I like that. But this is cool. This is more of a suggestion, right? I like this one. So he suggested to his girlfriend, Grimes, right? Yeah, Claire, right? Claire. Yeah. That she change her legal name, her legal first name, to a lowercase c. Italics, lowercase c. Because it's commonly known within science as being a denotion of the speed of light. Is a lowercase italic c. So she did it. So what do you call her now? Just
C.
C. But no, it's italic, so it's going to be a bit more. It can't be C. It can't be C. It's C.
I don't know. That's kind of like a celebrity romance, and those things never last. So this strikes me as like almost like licking a donut and putting it.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. I don't know about that analogy, but I like it. But she did it. There you go. So now she's just known as C, the girl of the speed of light. Elon, we love you. I love that you're a bit crazy. I love that you don't give a shit. And you get my WTF. There you go. There's my WTF for today. Get into it. Okay, other side of the coin is Love It. Welcome to Love It. So I look at a few things I love. Now this one's really cool. I love this one. This one's super cool. So Love It. The Love It this time, right? Love It this time goes to an amazing company, and they're called Lumitron. Lumitron. And the entrepreneur, another Australian entrepreneur, Maury Stagg, he and a team of American scientists, they've got a huge breakthrough, and I think this is really cool, in X-ray technology. So X-ray technology apparently hasn't really shifted since the late 1800s, is what they tell us. So they've got a huge shift now. They've created something that has 1,000 times the resolution of the traditional X-ray. So right through what it's current, 1,000 times. I don't even know it's going to literally see everything. Isn't that just like seeing somebody? I don't know, right? So it's going to see through anything. Actually, I'll give you a comparison. They said this. I read an article where they said if you X-ray the Golden Gate Bridge currently using a normal X-ray machine, you'd be able to just see the outside of it, right? If you X-ray the whole Golden Gate Bridge with this new technology, you'll be able to see through the entire bridge, the cars that are on it, and even the upholstery used on the seats in the cars inside the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, this is the technology that's coming through. Plus, it is ultra low radiation compared to the current machines as well. So for anybody like me who's had X-rays before, raise your hand if you had an X-ray before. Have you ever thought it's a bit sus when you go in there and they, you know, when they like, I'm going to X-ray part of your body and they like put like a little bit of metal or whatever is on you here or like on your private parts, and then they run behind the thing and they go. The first time that happened, I'm like, what's going on? Why are you running away for? Should I be running? But yeah, I think I reckon we'll look back and say, you know, that most people got cancer from something like that. I don't know. So, but I reckon this is good, right? This is going to be ultra low radiation, 1,000 times better. And these guys have just got, it's a $10 billion market. They've just raised $33.6 million for a bunch of Australians that's got behind this technology as well. So awesome work. And you know, that's going to help do huge amounts in the medical field as well. Love that. Love it, Wards. Lumitron, you get my love it. Love it. Beautiful. All right, it is time. We're still live?
We're still live.
Perfect, thank goodness for that. It is time for me and Mr. Bobblehead to talk about Aaron's top 10. Don't laugh at my bobblehead. What's wrong with my bobblehead?
I like it.
Exactly, I like it, that's why I got it, right? My wife gave it to me as a gift many moons ago, right? And look, I used to wear pink shirts back then too, see? Am I wearing the exact same outfit?
You honestly, oh my god.
You are.
Am I wearing the same outfit?
That is unreal.
There you go. I like it. I'm gonna have to get a new bobblehead now to shave my head, all right? Love this. All right, good. Top 10. Good. So top 10 list. Every time we get together for Aaron Live, we try and get a new top 10 list of things we want to chat about. Sometimes they're a bit fun, sometimes they're a bit serious. This one is a top 10 list of great companies that have come back from the brink of death. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the big companies that you may have heard of have gone through massive shifts in stories like these top 10 that have gone through their own challenges. So, who gets my top 10? This is from credit.com, who have a great list as well. This number 10 goes to Lego. Lego. So if you are a child or an overgrown child, you'll know what Lego are, right? I saw a photo the other day on Instagram of a shark rearing its head out of the water, and it said a rare photo of a shark standing on a Lego. And I thought it was very funny because it was like jumping out of the water in agony. I thought that was pretty funny. So if you have children, you understand what it's like to have Lego left around the house. So 10 years ago, Lego, which is a Danish company, they had a lot of issues when it comes to selling the products that they had, and they had to start streamlining their operations. These guys almost went under, and they had to start producing some new things. Guess what saved them? Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Blockbuster movie helped the brand, and they launched a whole new range around there, and they went from being struggling to being big again. I know that because I purchased Lego just yesterday, and they had to go. Lego's got to go against, like, you know, crappy, cheap, you know, blocks versus Lego, which is a premium brand. So these guys did well. Harry Potter saves the day. There you go.
Lego is so expensive.
Not just a wizard.
Like,
oh, Lego's expensive, yeah, but it's.
now do I realise how much my parents must have
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you got Lego? Yeah. No, we play with mud, bricks. You know, we just put things together, bottle caps. You know, we didn't get Lego. Lego is for rich children. We didn't get that stuff. So, yeah, exactly, right. So number nine goes to Chrysler. Chrysler hits the list of number 9, back from the brink of death. Number 9. So 2008, which was obviously the big financial meltdown right across the world, stemming from America, really hit a lot of big companies. Chrysler got caught up in this as well. But before that, way before that, some of you may remember, some of your older folk out there might remember the oil crisis in the 70s. Does anyone remember the oil crisis in the 70s? As I look around, nobody was born in the 70s in the studio. But it's good to know that they know it existed. So the oil crisis in the 70s, and that really had a big issue. Omni had to loan $1.5 billion from the Fed to get going again when there was a huge issue, because there was a huge, back in the 70s, there was huge amounts of problems happening. Oil was going up, down, all around, and the people weren't buying cars, people weren't buying petrol because it was so expensive, and that was affecting the whole car market. So Chrysler came back from the brink, and now these guys are doing really well. They launched a new They did a new. They did really well from the new. What was the car called? That small one, the compact one.
Oh, I have no idea.
Crossfire. Is that what it's called?
Wow.
Crossfire.
That's a cool name.
I got a good memory. There you go. Crossfire. They came back to doing the compact cars as well. So they get my number 9 back from the brink with a $1.5 billion loan from the government. How's that? Hey. So I don't know if it's back from the brink or actually saved by the government. Because I don't think you go to the bank and say, "Can I have $1.5 billion? Promise, I'll pay it back."
Exactly an underdog story
Promise.
either, is
I know, is it
You
right?
just get
Right, they did well.
$1
If they shook the can on the street to get 1.5 billion, I like it. All right, number 8. Number 8 is, who remembers this? Don't say you do unless you do. Jack in the Box. Does anyone remember this? No, not the Jack in the Box. Yeah, Jack in the Box, which was a restaurant chain. Does anyone remember the Jack in the Box? I remember Jack in the Box. It's an American chain. Yeah, I remember it still though. Jack in the Box. So there was an E. coli breakout in the Jack in the Box restaurant. That's the reason why you can't remember it. And that was a huge crisis. 4 people died. That's sad. 175 people hospitalized. That's not as sad, but sad. But that was a big problem for these guys. So they came back from. I mean, I don't understand how they came back from that, right? I don't know who. Whoever was the CEO of that company deserves like a friggin' medal or something, right?
The article there says that they had some clever marketing. You'd have to. Have
What's the
some
clever
really
marketing?
Clever marketing.
Only 4 died?
Yeah, we
What do you
don't
do?
have E. coli in our food anymore.
So if
Come on.
175 people just didn't die, but 4 did, can you just say like our percentages, you'll be okay?
I don't-
You'll be okay.
Yeah.
That should be their thing, right?
90%
Love it. 90, we're 95% sure you'll walk out of the restaurant. Love it. Yeah, that's bad marketing. So now what do? So these guys now, Jack in the Box, they're doing tacos, everything. $554 million a year is what they do now in sales. No one remembers it. No one remembers the E. coli outbreak. There you go. Number 7, Starbucks. So Starbucks, that 2008, they were going through a big problem. Now, I remember the Starbucks issues really came from their over-expanding really early on. And Howard Schwartz, who's their CEO, who's their founder, wasn't there. He came back because in 2008, they had to get, they didn't get any government help like everybody else is getting, but he came back in because a lot of the stores were failing, and he came back in and got it rolling again. And this guy, and if you, by the way, if you want to follow an entrepreneur, Howard Schwartz, amazing guy, one of the founders of Starbucks, really did, bring that company into where it is and to where it is now. He saved this thing in 2008, brought them back from the brink, really focused on their marketing, their social media as well. So huge comeback story for Starbucks, who was still around. There you go, comeback story from the big brands. There you go, and they didn't get government money too, which is even more of a props for those guys too. Love it. Number 6, IBM. IBM, but this was back in 92. They lost $5 billion. Lost $5 billion. And I'd probably say it's because of a good company called Apple, right? Or one of these guys. And so lost $5 billion. They had to, the CEO came and turned things around by making some hard decisions, by firing 100,000 people on the day. That's interesting. 100,000 people on the day. That's like most of the workforce, I'd say. Now these guys did $81 billion of revenue in 2015, but a huge turnaround for these guys. $5 billion in 1992, back from the brink, and really what saves these guys now. IBM have one of the biggest government contracts across all of the countries right now, which is where they make most of their money. Love it. Number 5. AIG. This is one of the big insurance guys. Another bailout that they had to get. These are big automakers. These ones guys. They weren't these guys. The big automakers got the bailouts. The AIG, the insurance guys, got the bailouts as well. These guys came back from the brink. This was at the same time that everything was going down in 2008. These guys had lost everything. How many companies, I wonder, would just not be around, or industries just not be around if the government just decided to not give any money at all? I think, for these guys. So insurance guys got the bailout. These guys came back from the brink. They were about to go out of business, and they relaunched now. It's Insurance News Net, and they're doing huge things right now. And then actually, so Insurance News Net says they're the leading seller now of their insurances back again after only 10 years as well. That's what we need to do. We need to have crisis, go get government money, because the pattern is everyone keeps coming back better. Have you noticed, Connor? Everyone's coming back better and better. GM, or again, number 4, GM. One of the biggest auto makers. I was saying audio makers. automakers. These guys again, 2008 crisis. They got $50 million. That's not too bad. 1.5 billion's more. And these guys came back again. These guys are about to go under again. These guys came back. One of the big things with these guys as well was not just that, because the faulty, do you remember the faulty ignition issue that they had as well? The cars weren't starting, the cars starting by themselves, and a whole bunch of stuff that was allegedly going on. Yeah, you should have seen the story. People like, my car's starting by itself and like driving away, or I'm like, pretty sure you're watching Transformers, right? So I don't know, but there was all these crazy stories coming out from people as well. But these guys came back and their sales went up by 10% every quarter, finishing up in 2006 as well, and they've grown since then. Number 3, Marvel, which you got, everyone loves Marvel now, right? Everyone loves Marvel now, right? Well, I'll tell you, 20 years ago, they were bankrupt. No. We need to have a sound effect for that, don't we? 20 years ago, they were bankrupt. So these guys, they had big issues because they rivaled DC Comics, right? You have to decide, you have to like one or the other, right? Marvel or DC. Although DC are doing well, right? They're coming back now, right? No, DC bought by Disney, I think, and then Marvel.
DC's movie stuff is trash compared to
But they're doing the deal now. So you're gonna see DC Comic and Marvel people together in movies. True story.
Wow.
You heard it first.
Okay.
So these guys were obviously doing great things with Batman's, Superman, blockbuster movies. So what they did wasn't working. So what they did, you remember they did all the license deals back then. So they got all the characters, Spider-Man, X-Men, Blade, all that kind of stuff, and then got back up and running again. But we all know it was the Avengers. We all know that it was the Avengers that turned them around. But obviously Disney, being Disney, these guys helped them turn around as well. Bought them, came with the Avengers. And even if it's going to be a shitty Avengers, who's still going to watch Avengers if it comes out, right? Everyone's going to do it, right? They love Avengers, right? So they turn around. There you go. Bankrupt 20 years ago. There you go. Number 2. Best Buy, right? Best Buy. So Best Buy, big company based in America. It's actually right around the world, but not in Australia. And these guys sell everything, electrical goods and a bunch of fun stuff. Old school brick and mortar electronics. And these guys they actually currently are, I think, the largest electronic retailer. So like a JB Hi-Fi if you're in Australia. Electronic superstore. These guys had competitors, Circuit City, which went under. I remember Circuit City. I think we featured Circuit City at one of our Aaron Lives as well. We did, right? They went under. I think they also had an E. coli outbreak. No, they didn't. And in 2010, their sales were going down. Scandal with the CEO wasn't great. And these guys came back. So now, in 2010, they were plummeting. They were heading for bankruptcy as well. And what they did, they swung it around by firing a bunch of people. So that's the key. Fire everybody, right, when you're in the brink, and then go and they're like, hey, don't fire anyone. And then they've got a whole bunch of the big brands coming on, Samsung, Apple, and a bunch of these guys, and they're back into profits again in 2016. There you go. Best Buy back at it. Number 1. Who gets my number 1? Who gets my number 1? Who gets my number 1? Number 1, Apple. You got to give it to Apple, right? Apple. Why? Because 20 years ago, right? If you remember 20 years ago, these guys were plummeting. They had, how many products they have? Oh, close to 1,000 products. Steve comes back, I think, is Elon Musk the modern day Steve Jobs? He must be, right? I don't know. Is he like, the guy that's just coming, he's love it. So he comes back and he goes, we're going to cut everything. We're going to create, we're going to go back to one product. And he saved them. We know Steve saved them. Came back. They were losing. This was 20 years ago. They were losing $1 billion a year. Yeah. Can you imagine that? 20 years ago? They were losing $1 billion a year. He comes back in. He must have enjoyed it though. I reckon Steve knew that they were watching them lose money and kind of just waited. Because he said, you kicked me out, so fuck you, right? And so he comes back, saves the company, and these guys now obviously I don't even need to talk about how great they are. But what a brink, and what a change. Think about it in the company. Imagine if you work for a company, you had 1,000 products. One guy comes back in and says 999 products are now obsolete. All those people are not going to no longer work on that project. We're going to work on one and we're going to build up from there as well. Huge change in that. And these guys came back from the brink and now become one of the biggest stories of all time. There you go. How many of those brands are massive brands that have come back? There you go. Love it. That's my top 10 list for Aaron Live. Give a round of applause for that one. There we go. We love it. Good. We're going to love it. Good. So Aaron's advice. Next up, Aaron's advice time. So you guys have questions on any of the live streams that you guys have been watching, whether it be Instagram or on Facebook, please let us know what your questions are. This is the time we've got to do some. We promise we're going to give some prizes out for if you're sharing it right now, and the prizes. Have we?
Commenting shares. I think it's the sort of thing we'll have to check afterwards because we have had.
Love it. Everyone that shares it right now, he's going to get it. He's going to get a VIP ticket to a non-sold out eSum event that we have next month. There you go. Quick share. Go. Everyone that shares it.
From people, Luan's going to give you some questions while I check the Instagram.
Go.
So what's a good way to handle a situation where they laughed at you when you pitch your idea?
What's a quick way to say go fuck yourself? That's the best way to. So if they with your picture. So if they, first of all, you got to be able to measure you, right? So if you pitch your idea, you get laughed at. I think, depending on where you're pitching your idea is important. You know, some people I think go wrong because they come up with a great idea. They go to Aunt Betty and say, what do you think? She doesn't give a shit or understand the market. So she thinks it's a poor idea, and then they bury it, you know, back in their pocket for 10 more years. So for me, if you're pitching to somebody who knows what they're talking about, then understand why that was, you know, maybe what they're saying, what's the feedback that they're giving you. But, you know, if it's someone that you don't really care about what their opinion is, then you're going to get many of those. You know, you launch a business, you launch a brand, you launch a product, you're going to have all the naysayers, people that don't like the product and service, you're going to have ones that love it. So it depends on who it is. I think that if it's someone that knows what they're talking about, you respect, you can learn from, great. But if it's not, then you need to move on. You're going to get pitched. I mean, what's Colonel Sanders, right? Do you know who Colonel Sanders is? The guy who founded KFC, right? KFC, right? Some people love KFC in the room. So KFC, which is what is the biggest fried chicken place in the world, Colonel Sanders was in his late 70s when he founded KFC. So as the story goes, he goes and pitches this over 1,000 times. 1,000 times. Over 1,000 times. He pitches this thing to get people. And he said this. He goes, this is his pitch. He goes into chicken restaurants and he says, I'll give you my secret recipe, you cook it, and we'll do it we'll do a split on that, Ron. So you sell my chicken, I won't give you my recipe, and we'll sell it. This is a 7-year-old guy, white suit, that's why they have the suit for him that does it, white suit. He was going in, to these chicken joints, and in his own words, this is what they were saying. They said, what would a old white dude know about fried chicken, right? And he got kicked. That's what he said, that he got told over 1,000 times. So it was something like 1,062 times. Someone finally said yes. 1,000 times. Can you imagine? How many stores would you go to be told no and you would have already quit? This guy was like, I'm going to keep going because I'm going to die at some stage. So, I'm going to keep going, right? What, 70-something years old, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to keep going. So there you go. So if the idea is good, you believe in it, you got some sound advice, that's how you deal with it. You keep going and understand that you got to know who you're talking to and pitching to as well. Yeah? Good question. Next up.
Angela in the chat says, #Aaron's advice, what's your opinion on electronic platforms for training services?
What's my opinion on electronic platforms for training services?
Do you rate them?
Absolutely, we have one. This is one, is it not? So we're on there. So look, I think let's talk about digital revolution for anything. I think if you've got a product or a service that is being disrupted by the digital revolution, and you provide that content like what you're saying you do, then absolutely you need to be doing that. But you've got to know your target market. If you're, let's say, selling an educational service to a baby boomer or a much older generation, you're going to have a section of people that have been up on it, they've got their iPads, they understand the internet, they understand what's going on, and a section of people that don't want to understand it. If you were to deal with an educational product online for someone who's 18, 19, 20, they've only ever grown up with smartphones and tablets and things, so they get it. So depending on what your product or service may be, you've got to know whether it's right. But overall, that's where it's going. Look how we're watching this right now. We're streaming something. You're watching this. You're learning through Facebook occasionally, mostly from Instagram when it doesn't actually break down. But you're learning through this. This is not Channel 9. This is not Channel 10. This is not Foxtel. So, you're seeing the evolution happen right here and right now. So yes, I do believe in it. Good question.
Fantastic. You got anything else there?
How do you know if your business has the ability to come back from the brink of death?
Your business has the ability to come back from the brink of death. Well, it's for shit business. The question is, do you want it to come back from the brink of death? Like if you've got a bad product or a service, you're doing the wrong thing. So the first thing for me is you got to get some advice on it. You know, I've met some people before that have had businesses. So I've got this thing I call the business cycle, right? And one of those cycles is what I call life support. And it's right before death, which is you're out of business. If you're in life support, which means life support is, I want a flip chart. Life support means if you're not breaking even anymore, which means that the income coming into your business and your expenses coming into your business aren't matching the same thing. If that's the case, if that's not matching, then you're going backwards every single month. You're underneath your break-even point. You're in life support. So if you're underneath that point and the business is going, what you would hear someone saying backwards, then the question is, what do you need to do to change and should you develop? So get good mentoring, good advice on where it may be. And if you're in that point, then you've got to work out what the next step is. What the challenge I think with a lot of companies is they get to a point where they start to go backwards and then they hold on tight. They stop spending money on advice, on marketing, on developing, and then what happens? If you're already going backwards and you stop changing, evolving, or marketing or growing, you're only relying on your existing database to get you out of the shit, then you don't get anywhere as well. So I think a good solid plan, I think getting your head out of the sand, and I think doing something about it. So that's what I'd say to get yourself back, back in the green, back into what I call the growth quadrant on the business cycle, but get advice on whether it's time to move on for that business or not, whether it's the right business, whether it's time to sell out, or whether it may be as well. But any business can be rescued if they understand the principles to get there. Then you actually do it, you take the actions as well. Make sense?
Good question.
Good.
We got one last question here from Ainsley, who's been sticking with us through the technical difficulties.
There you go,
Thank
Ainsley.
you very much, Ainsley. Asks with regards to Entrepreneur Summit, will you be bringing some new celebrities to your Entrepreneur Summits in the future?
Of course I will. I'm just going to tell you who they are, right? So this time what we decided to do, because it was such a hit. Literally last time we did the Entrepreneur Summit, even we were blown away. We released the 4 events with Janine Ellis on some of the events, and Michelle Bridges, and within a couple of weeks they were completely sold out, and we had waiting lists of people that missed out. So this time we brought both of these amazing entrepreneurs back, and we switched them around so that they're coming to different cities this time, other than Perth, because Perth wanted Michelle to come back, so we said we're going to bring her back. So when we do Entrepreneur Summits in the future, if that's something we're going to do, then we would be bringing some more people back as well. We've got a lot of people that want to come and speak on our stages and hang out. A lot of people want to give great value to you guys as well, and every time we can come and hang out with you, we will. So we're looking forward to doing that. Melbourne are going to be having Janine Ellis, who's one of my favorite entrepreneurs here in Australia. We caught up with her literally a couple of days ago at her head office again, and we're going to be Michelle Bridges, who is an icon and shows you how you can grow a personal brand and grow an empire at the same time. And then who knows, in the future we're definitely going to have a few more people coming and joining us. So you want to come and join us next month in August? We're going to be hanging out. It's going to be in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Brisbane, and in Perth. If you go to entrepreneurssummit.com.au, you'll be able to grab some tickets for that. I think the 2-for-1 early bird's still there. It might be going very, very soon. There's also the VIP if you want to come and hang out. You want to get a copy of my book signed and come and get a photo with myself and whoever is the other speaker there, Michelle or Janine, and come and hang out for a Q&A as well, live in your city. We only get to do this maybe once or twice a year, where we get to do these big Entrepreneur Summit tours, and this is the last Entrepreneur Summit tour that we are doing in 2018. So come and hang out with us as well. Grab tickets while they're there. Like I said, Melbourne's sold out, so come and grab it, right? Melbourne sold out in a week, I think, this time. So come and grab tickets to that one, entrepreneurssummit.com.au. This has been another episode, another show of Aaron Live. Hope you guys have had fun. You've enjoyed it. Make sure you share this. You guys have fun. You take all the notes, you implement it, and I hope to see a bunch of you live in your city, in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane, and Perth next month in the Entrepreneur Summit. This has been Aaron Live. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.